Welcome, everybody, to the NFL show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. This is a special edition of the NFL show brought to you by Manscaped. Use the promo code TG20. To what, Sam? What do you do if you buy Manscaped?
You get 20% off and make your balls happy or something?
You make your balls happy. There you go. What's better than that? All right, so Manscaped TGT20 is the promo code. Today, we're going to talk about the NFL trade deadline, which comes up in a week or a little over a week on Election Day, where all the players will be out voting while their owners are trying to trade them. All right, we're going to start off with guys we think could be on the move. Brandin Cooks, I know, is one of the guys high on your list, Sam, that could be out of here or out of where he's at right now in Houston.
Yeah, trading Cooks to Houston was a big priority for the Rams this offseason because of how big his contract is, so it might be a little difficult to move him from the Texans right now. But at the same point, if you're Houston, you don't want to be paying him as much money as you are. He's clearly not a number one option. He's only averaging 61 yards per game. And he did have a 4-year stretch where he had over 1,000 yards per year. But since that, I think it's been proven because he's been traded so often. I mean, this is his fourth team of his career already. I mean, we know at this point he's not a true number one option. And the Houston Texans should be looking to recoup draft picks right now, try to get rid of some of the high salary guys and build around Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, but isn't part of the problem here is he's making $16 million, which is too much money. So wouldn't you probably have to take a little hit and give a little money back with him also to be able to get him out of there?
You probably would, but if you're taking a hit, let's say, for this year, that wouldn't be the biggest loss because you're basically done already this season. Your season's over.
Well, how about that? When we talk about these wide receivers, we'll get into a couple more here. I mean, is the landing spot, could the Cleveland Browns be a possible suitor for one of these guys with Odell Beckham Jr. going down?
Yeah, they really could because they have to bring someone in besides Jarvis Landry. Odell was kind of more their explosive down the field receiver. Now they don't have that. Brandin Cooks, he has the speed. He's more of a downfield guy. If you're looking for someone to play and complement Jarvis Landry, Brandin Cooks would be ideal. I just don't know if they have the money to make that work.
Yeah, and I don't know if you'd want to use up that money to make it work. All right, another one. Sam Darnold, the quarterback of the New York Jets. I guess we could still call them an NFL football team. And, I think it sounds like he's not going anywhere. But, a fresh start would really help him. So I think the trade here would be a bigger deal for Sam Darnold than it would be for the New York Jets.
Yeah, NFL Network's Ian Rappaport seems very confident he's not going to be moved, but I included him in the article anyways just because, it would make a lot of sense for Sam Darnold to be traded right now. And the Jets, let's be honest, by keeping Adam Gase as head coach, it basically signals to me that you're not trying to win this year. You're really not. You're trying to lose at this point. Because if you were trying to win games, Adam Gase would have been fired by week 3. So, if you're going to lose games, why not trade Sam Darnold? You're probably going to draft a quarterback number 1 overall anyways. So let's trade Sam Darnold now, try to get let's say a 3rd or 4th round pick back in return for him, and then use that this year to kind of build around your roster again with a new head coach.
Yeah. So it's the New York Jets. So I would think the fact that they hired Adam Gase to begin with to be the head coach would tell me they're not too interested in winning, Sam.
Yeah, he's been one of the worst coaches in the NFL this year. And if you're a team looking to get Sam Darnold, I would think the best option at this point, if you're in Indianapolis and Darnold was on the market, would you give a call?
Yeah, I would. Why wouldn't you? I think Sam Darnold has a lot of talent. I don't know that he's ever going to be an elite quarterback, but I think he's a guy that could be, somewhere between 8 and 12 in the right situation. So if I'm in Indianapolis, I would definitely give him a call. Hell, if I was Chicago, I would consider giving him a call. Because I think with Sam Darnold, the difference between Sam Darnold and Nick Foles is, what Nick Foles is, which is a solid guy you got to put people around. I don't think you really know what Sam Darnold is yet because you've never seen a cast that can make him a winner around him. I think Sam Darnold is close to being ruined. The Jets are good at doing that. Let's name all the great New York Jet quarterbacks since the 1960s, Sam.
Yeah, you really can't. The one guy that pops into mind, and he's not great, would be like Chad Pennington. And really, that just tells you how rough the franchise has had it.
No, what that tells me is you're way too damn young because you got Joe Namath.
Oh, what year did you say? What year did you say?
From the 1960s and now. Overall.
I wasn't listening to that, Mike. I'll be honest. I heard 1980s. I wasn't really paying that close of attention to what you're saying.
That's the thing. To me, when you look at the Jets, though, they're better than the Bears quarterback-wise. But you did have Richard Todd, who was solid. You had Ken O'Brien, who I think was really underrated. You had Vinny Testaverde, who, when Bill Parcells was there, did a good job. But really, Chad Pennington, I mean, these are guys that are just kind of guys. They're average or slightly above average quarterbacks. And I think that's been one of New York's problems and why they haven't won a Super Bowl since Super Bowl III with Joe Namath, because they haven't really had a big-time quarterback. Now, if you look at the Jets, 1985, 86, right around there, Ken O'Brien was a really good quarterback. They decided to bring Pat Ryan in. I think O'Brien started them like 10-1. They switch quarterbacks, everything falls apart. They end up losing in the playoffs to Cleveland. But, I mean, the Jets are where quarterbacks go to die. And, you had, was it Mark Sanchez? He died there. I think Sam Darnold's died there. But I think Sam Darnold's early enough in his career, and he has enough talent that he can recover from that in the right situation. Next up, we're going to talk Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to talk him a few times here. Carlos Dunlap, who is the career sack leader for the Cincinnati Bengals, 2 Pro Bowl selections. He obviously wants out of Cincinnati. The question is, will the Bengals let him get out? Because the Bengals have a history at the trade deadline of not trading guys like A.J. Green and Andy Dalton and then getting nothing for them later on when the year's over.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to happen here, because it's basically the organizational incompetence we've seen over and over again for Cincinnati. Although I did find it kind of funny, though, when Carlos Dunlap tweeted that his house was for sale this past weekend. He deleted the tweet since then, but he tweeted that his house was for sale. And really, that tells you everything you need to know about what this veteran feels like about that locker room and about the coaching staff. And Geno Atkins as well. He's not getting a lot of playing time either. He's not making as much of a dispute over the whole situation, but he's not happy with how things are going right now either.
I don't think anybody's happy with the way things are going in Cincinnati right now. The good thing is they're only allowed to let 12,000 into the game, and that's about all the people that would show up anyways. Next up, let's go Julian Edelman. Is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer?
Oh.
Okay. I think he is.
That's the easiest answer of my life.
A Hall of Famer?
What?
Lynn Swann's a Hall of Famer.
Mike, we've talked about Lynn Swann in the past in the show, and we both agree that statistically it doesn't line up.
But why is he there? Why is Joe Namath there?
Well, Joe Namath did win a Super Bowl as the quarterback on a team.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not the reason they won that Super Bowl. That Super Bowl was won by Matt Snell, who should have been the MVP.
Yeah, Matt Snell, a great player who's been forgotten for some reason because they probably just have named his name. But really, no, Edelman's not a Hall of Famer to me. He performed in the postseason. He's right. He did perform well in the playoffs. He's got good playoff numbers. To be honest, those playoff numbers by far dwarf whatever he's done in the regular season. He's not a Hall of Fame player. This guy's never been a top 10 receiver in the NFL.
All right, so let's do this, though. Pull up Lynn Swann's stats. I got Julian Edelman's.
All right, pull him up.
I don't know if I'm right or not because I'm not looking at Lynn Swann's, but you got it up yet?
Yep, it's up.
All right, Lynn Swann, how many catches in his career?
336.
Okay, Julian Edelman, 620. How many yards for Swann?
About 5,500.
All right, Edelman, 68-22. Touchdowns?
51.
Okay, he's got him on that. He's got 36. But if you see what I'm saying here, if you go stats-wise, there's guys in the Hall of Fame that have less of a career. And I think if you go Super Bowls, I mean, I know Swann had some big-time catches in Super Bowls, but that's about all he had, wasn't it? I mean, I still think John Stallworth was better than Lynn Swann.
No, John Stallworth had a better career than Lynn Swann did. I agree with you. And he had a better peak than Lynn Swann did as well. But Lynn Swann's on a Hall of Fame all-decade team, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. He's on an all-decade team. He was the first team All-Pro one year. He's got other things on his resume besides Super Bowls.
There, because of the Super Bowls.
But yeah, you could say that, but I mean, it's there though. What's Julian Edelman? Have you never got that?
You can't just say that. If you take away the couple catches in Super Bowl 10 and the catch in 13 and the catch in 14, I don't think he's anywhere near a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but if you do that, that's like saying, well, we take away Pittsburgh's rings because those catches really helped out in those games.
No, because what helped out in those games was that defense.
Well, that did.
Especially in the first two, especially in Super Bowl 10 when they completely shut down the Cowboys. And I just think this. I just think it's a conversation that could be had. But when you look at Julian Edelman, New England right now, they need a lot of things. And a 34-year-old wide receiver who is regressing, dropping passes, struggling to clear. I mean, that's not it. My question is this. A 34-year-old receiver who's obviously on the downside of his career, what can you really get for him right now? I mean, who would give up something for a old possession guy?
Well, not a lot of teams, but let me ask you this. What about San Francisco, should I say? A team that's had a lot of injuries, has very low depth at receiver, and both their guys, Brandin Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, are very young players. If you are the San Francisco 49ers, I think you would give up something to get a guy like Julian Edelman.
But what would you give up? Would you give up a third or fourth round pick for him?
You could probably weasel a fourth round out there, honestly. You could probably get a fourth.
The way I look at it is this. If I'm the San Francisco 49ers, I got a lot of injuries. If I'm going to win games, it's going to be defensively and running the ball. What does Julian Edelman add? Because in their offense, I think what they need a guy is going to blow the top off of the defense to really make a difference. So does Julian Edelman, an older Julian Edelman, really make a difference?
Probably not as much as you would hope for. But let me put it this way. Mohamed Sanu, the Patriots traded a second-round pick for him last year, and he was an older possession receiver at the time. So there's been precedents where teams have made kind of trades like this. Even if it doesn't make any sense, I'm not saying it makes sense, but it's happened before. It's happened last year.
How did that work out? I'm not talking about whether it makes sense whether they would do it. I'm just saying it doesn't work out that well when you do it. You get an older possession receiver, and he degrades, declines, he becomes a guy that's not usable. You know, if you're A.J. Green or Julio Jones and you get 38, 39, or you're Jerry Rice with the Raiders, he was still a usable possession receiver who every once in a while could get deep. But when a guy who is a big-time receiver regresses, he regresses into being, you know, a possession receiver. A possession receiver that regresses ends up sitting on his couch watching football on Sundays.
Yeah, and the drops really are the biggest concern. Edelman does have one big game this year where he had 179 yards in week 2 against Seattle. But other than that, he's been pedestrian at best, and the drops have plagued him throughout the year already.
Yeah, and hasn't everybody went for 200 yards against Seattle catching the ball?
It seems like at this point, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins had quit the night the other day.
All right, next up, Zach Ertz for the Eagles. My question is he going to be back, and when is he going to be back?
Yeah, that's the big question for Zach Ertz. And right now, the way I've seen it so far is it looks like the designation they put on him for injury means that he'll probably stay with the Eagles throughout the rest of the season. They might trade him in the offseason. It looks like he's going to stick with them through the rest of the year. If I'm Zach Ertz, honestly, I might not rush it back this year because I know he wants a new contract. He wants to get paid much more, I think, than what he is, or he wants to make sure he's not going to get traded. There's contract concerns there in Philadelphia. But at the same point, I mean, the Eagles, at some point, you got to see what you're dealing with here. Zach Ertz is an aging tight end. He hasn't contributed much this year. He's been beat up and injured. He's got a high ankle sprain right now. It's not known when he's going to come off the IR. They haven't set a date yet. But a high ankle sprain, you're thinking maybe at most probably like 6 weeks, I would say. He'll miss a lot of time, but he'll be back by the end of the year.
Well, a high ankle sprain can be anything from 3 weeks to 10 weeks because a high ankle sprain is actually extremely serious. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people just think it's an ankle sprain, but it's not. A high ankle sprain, if you play too soon, you can actually do damage that can't be undone.
See, I did not know that. I've never had a high ankle sprain.
See, I didn't know that until my son got one last year during his high school season. And we were playing a game in Columbus, Ohio, and he goes down with that. And at halftime, they said, well, they didn't say it was a high ankle sprain. They said, well, we think maybe he's got a hairline fracture. So I went ahead and let him play the second half because what the hell? Where's he going to do is break his leg the rest of the way? We needed to win the game. So he played the rest of the game. And then we find out on Monday when we go to the doctor, it's a high ankle sprain. And the doctor starts explaining to me, you know, if he comes back too soon and hurts a high ankle sprain again, you know, that could take a year to heal. It could be never to heal. So a high ankle sprain, I've seen guys come back in 3 or 4 weeks. But I think the majority, to be safe with Zach Ertz, you're probably waiting 6 to 8 weeks. And with the Eagles, they're going to be in the playoffs. So if you could have Zach Ertz back by the playoffs, I don't know why you would trade him.
It's been on the mind of a lot of Eagles fans lately. It's been on kind of like one of those rumors that's been turning around because of the contract and the money and also the age. The issue is like he's going to want more money very soon. And he's already 29 years old, going on 30. He's going to be 30 within the next month. And there's just a contrast there between the money and the age. And they're going to probably end up leaving him with nothing. You're probably going to end up in a very sticky contract talk with him long term.
All right, next up, a team that's on here a lot is the Bengals. A team that's on here a lot are the Minnesota Vikings. And when you look at the Vikings, this is a team that has talent. I just don't think it's enough talent all over the place anymore. And Harris tied for the league lead with 6 interceptions last year. He was a first-team All-Pro by Pro Football Focus, and he got the franchise tag this year, but Minnesota's performance has been so bad, they've probably got to blow this up at least to some point and start over. And Harris is a guy that I think there's a lot of teams out there that are playoff contenders would really want.
Yeah, they have to blow up this whole defense, in my opinion. Maybe you can keep some parts of the offense around, but to me, the defense has to get blown up and restarted. And Harris is a guy who's, I think, 29 going on 30 as well. And he had a great year this past season. He's not doing as well this year. So if you're the Vikings, you want to sell as high as possible for him. You're not going to sign to a long-term deal this offseason. It's just not going to happen with the way the salary cap is working out. So why not get rid of him now? You're a losing franchise. You're not going to make the playoffs. This guy's on a one-year deal. He's not performing as high as he was last year. Sell him while you can still get a second or third round pick for him.
Well, I'd say at the age of 29, the reason he's not performing as well as last year is because the team's not as performing as well around him. Next up, we have Dwayne Haskins. Now, why the hell would somebody want to trade for Dwayne Haskins?
Yeah, that's the question here. The question is who would want to trade for him? Now, I would point out that the Miami Dolphins did trade a second and a fifth round pick for Josh Rosen last year. So it's not unprecedented to see teams trade significant draft picks for quarterbacks that have underperformed or not performed at all. So really, I wouldn't be shocked if he got traded, but again, it's finding the right fit for him. That would be difficult in this situation. I think we all know Haskins is not going to be the future in Washington, so he's going to end up somewhere else. If you're Ron Rivera, I would try to sell him and get as much as I can in return.
Or if that XFL comes back, maybe you could trade him to one of those teams.
Hey, you never know. Some of the quarterbacks in the XFL might be better than Dwayne Haskins at this point.
I don't think there's any doubt that they are. I think Dwayne Haskins is not very good. Next up, we're going to go somebody that was very good a couple of years ago, been a little shaky the last year or so, injury problems at times. Jordan Howard. So when Jordan Howard, he's a Miami Dolphin. Miles Sanders replaced him. And I think he's already out of his way or on his way out in Miami. I think he's a guy that I don't know how much trade value you can get for him. But if I'm a team that needs to upgrade my running game, I mean, Jordan Howard's a solid guy.
Yeah, if you're the 49ers, I mean, you just put the guy that had last night do really well, Wilson, he's put on short-term IR. And you've had injuries throughout the entirety of basically their entire backfield at this point. I mean, they lost, who was it? Forget his name. Raheem Mostert is on IR for a short term at the very least. Now, so is Wilson. You're going to need an extra running back up there in San Francisco right now. I wouldn't put the idea out of the 49ers trading a fifth or maybe a sixth round pick to get Jordan Howard.
All right. I like Jordan Howard. I think he's a good running back. Next up, we have another Washington football teamer, whatever the hell you call them now. I still call them the Redskins, Sam, but what the hell? That's just me. Ryan Kerrigan. If you're the Washington football team, you've got 2 wins right now. You're clearly in the hunt for the playoffs, Sam. Why would you start getting rid of players? Now, Dwayne Haskins, I can understand. But, I mean, seriously, when you look at Washington in this division, why couldn't they win it?
No, yeah, they could win it, but I'm saying else. Yeah, but the one issue here is how much does Ryan Kerrigan matter in the immediate future of your team? Because obviously he's a very good player. He's been a great player. He's a franchise leader in sacks all the time. But he's coming out the worst year of his career. He's already 32 years old. And if we look at the other players on that defensive front, you got Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat. You got Ryan Anderson's on the team as well. You have plenty of pass rushers up front. You could probably take out Ryan Kerrigan from that rotation and not lose a lot because of he's only playing 29 to I want to say somewhere between 15 to 30% of your defensive snaps per game at this point. So I think if you're going to get a third or fourth round pick from him for a team that desperately needs a pass rusher off the edge, I think that might be a deal worth doing.
I think you would be crazy to give a third or fourth round pick for him.
Too high?
Way too high. All right, next up, we're going to talk about way too high, and that's where the Bengals drafted John Ross, which was way too high a few years ago. John Ross holds little value anywhere right now. Is this – I mean, I don't know if you could get a fourth or a fifth round pick for John Ross right now. And if I'm the Bengals right now, I would be playing him because if you'd have played him in the last couple of weeks and he had a couple decent games, his trade value would go up. So this is once again – this is Cincinnati, where nobody has any common sense. So John Ross is a guy that right now there's almost no trade value, but he is a guy that is very talented. if you were to have played him the last couple weeks and he'd have made 9 or 10 catches for 120 yards, maybe you could talk somebody into giving you something for him. I just don't think you could get anything right now.
No, probably not. And you know what? If you can't, it's because the Bengals, like I said, did not play him. I don't understand how you've got have guys like him or Auden Tate or even Alex Erickson who produced last year who you're not playing whatsoever. I understand you've got T. Higgins, A.J. Green, and Tyler Boyd up front. But if you're going to have these pieces on your team, why not play them a little bit and see if you can get draft picks for them? If you're not going to play them at all, you're just going to run them with special teams, you might as well play them a couple of times in the first opening weeks of the season and see what you can get from them. I think John Ross could have been a 5th-round pick or a 4th-round pick if you had just given him some attempts and some throws early in the year. They didn't play him whatsoever. And now they're going to end up with nothing for him.
Yeah, and I still think John Ross fits the offense that they want to run with Joe Burrow. I don't know why they don't give it a shot. I know a lot of times a new coach will come in and he'll want his own guys. And the problem with that is it's Cincinnati, so you're never going to get that because Marvin Lewis never wanted to pick John Ross with the 9th pick of the draft anyways in the first round. And then Marvin Lewis didn't play him. He treated him like crap. And this is what you end up with. All right, let's go back to the Minnesota Vikings. Kyle Rudolph. Now, this is a tight end, getting up there in age, but if the Vikings turn seller, if I'm a team that's looking to make the playoffs, he's 30 years old. He's got 3 years left on his contract. The contract's probably paying him more than what he's worth right now. But, I mean, Mason Rudolph is still, I think, a productive tight end. He's not what he used to be. But I could see a team going out and getting Kyle Rudolph, especially if you only have to give up a 4th or 5th round pick for him.
Yeah, and Rudolph is a guy who's a pretty hard-nosed player. He's not afraid to be a blocker, not afraid to do a little bit of everything for your team. And I know this wouldn't happen because it's in the division, but if you could put Kyle Rudolph on the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers and the other receiving threats they have there, I think he does great in Green Bay. I don't think it's going to happen because it's within the division. But to me, like the Packers are a good landing spot for him. They're just a ton of places I think overall that could use a tight end or quality tight end, especially with all the injuries going on right now. They're a place that could need this kind of production, and he would really offer that. I mean, even a place like Carolina, I know the Panthers are technically in the hunt for a wild card spot. They don't really have a tight end. So the Panthers could use a guy like Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kyle Rudolph's a hell of a player. He's a good presence in the locker room. So we'll see what happens there. Let's go back to Washington. Brandin Scherff, whatever the hell his name is. I know who he is. He's a damn good guard. And when you look at this, once again, do you have a guy that can replace him if you're in Washington? Because you do have I can't believe I'm saying this, but you have a legitimate shot to be a playoff team in this division.
Yeah, and if you take that into account, you probably say, well, we don't want to trade him then. But if you look at the realistic picture here and think, oh, well, Kyle Allen's our quarterback, and I don't know, maybe you'll wait another week and see what happens here. I know the deadline's coming up real quickly here. But to me, this team's going to end up getting blown up. I don't think they're going to win the division this year. I don't think they're going to end up in a playoff spot. I know you'll say it's possible. To me, it really isn't, even though they're technically statistically in the chance. I think it is
possible. You can't give me a team in this division where you could guarantee me right now they're going to get to 7 wins even.
I don't think you have to get to 7 wins to win this one, Mike. I think the Eagles are going to get it.
Washington's in. Wait. Washington still gets to go to Dallas, right? That's 3 wins. You get to play the Giants again. Boom, that's 4 wins. I mean, they play Philadelphia, and I'm sorry, but didn't they already beat Philadelphia?
Yeah, in week 1, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they play Philadelphia again. There's 5 right there. That could be the 5 they need to win the division. Now, I think this, though, and I think Daniel Snyder would be so excited to go to the playoffs, he would be short-sighted and keep free. But I think that if you had a good owner that realized the ultimate goal is to win the Super Bowl, I don't think I care about making the playoffs at 7 and 9 or whatever it is. So I think I trade him if I can get something to try to build this team for the future, because the future is not now whether you make the playoffs or not. The future right now, if you make the playoffs, is playing at home and getting beat up by 30 points by a good football team.
Yeah, you're going to end up playing the New Orleans Saints or something like that at home field, and you're going to end up losing pretty badly. So to me, Scherff is a guy who's 3-time Pro Bowler. He's dealt with injuries in the past. He's on a franchise tag. I think he's going to end up leaving this coming summer. And if you're really thinking about it, you're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. So if you can get let's say, 2nd or 3rd round pick for Brandin Scherff, I would make that deal.
Well, let's face it. They're in Washington. Daniel Snyder's the owner. They're not winning the Super Bowl anytime soon. Justin Simons. Justin Simons is on your Denver Broncos, who I believe you picked to make the playoffs. So why, if you think they're going to make the playoffs, would you want them to get rid of Simons?
Look, I've walked that statement back significantly in the past couple of weeks. They're definitely not going to make the playoffs.
It doesn't matter because you said it. And we're going to have a whole clip from that show so we can play it on every show to start the show.
Yes, we can just do a whole segment of Sam's bad takes to start. It'd be like a 5-minute low light reel at the very beginning of every show. But
that'd be good.
And really, Justin Simmons. I mean, this guy is one of the best safeties in the NFL. He was a second-team All-Pro last year, if I'm not mistaken. And he's still performing at a high level this year. The only difference is that, they have no offense whatsoever. They didn't have any offense last year either, honestly. So Simmons is a guy who's also on a franchise tag. I don't think the Denver Broncos are going to be competitive anytime soon because they still need a quarterback. This is a team that's going to take 2 or 3 years to even see if we're going to have it. They're going to have a new head coach next year. And Simmons is going to want a lot of money. He's going to want a near-record deal in free agency. He's on the franchise tag. I would trade him. I could think you could still get a third-round pick for this guy, even on the franchise tag, or maybe even the second-rounder if you do business really well.
All right, I agree. Next up, Adam Thielen, 30 years old. They got Justin Jefferson. I don't know if I'd want to trade Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's having a pretty good season. He doesn't look his age, and wide receivers that take care of themselves, he may have 4 years left, and you would have a combination of Thielen and Jefferson for a while. You've got Dalvin Cook, who's young. Are you sure? Would you want to trade Adam Thielen right now?
I don't think I would, but I wouldn't rule out the possibility of this trade happening because of the money he's owed, and also because of the fact that you don't want to end up in a situation where he reaches Julian Edelman. You don't want to end up where he's a situation where he's 34, 33 years old.
Yeah, you really not want that because that's 4 years down the road on Julian Edelman. And I think I don't think we haven't seen Adam Thielen with, prostitutes and groupies taking pictures of him in bed with him after the Super Bowl. So I would guess Adam Thielen takes care of himself a little bit better than Julian Edelman does.
That's fair. He does have 7 touchdowns this year. To me, it's less about the fact that you want him gone and more about the fact that there might be trade value there for him. And I don't know what the future of this team is going to be because you have Kirk Cousins at quarterback. You're probably changing head coach this offseason. I don't know how much they believe that this team is going to be capable of winning in 2 or 3 years.
It's not the team. The team is definitely capable of winning in 2 or 3 years. We saw Carolina turn in what year? Now they're competitive because they made a couple of the right sides. So right now, if you're Minnesota, you got to redo your defense. But in the meantime, next year, you score enough points to keep you in the games at least. And over time, 2 years from now, you're a contender again.
All right, so let me put it this way. If someone comes knocking on your door and saying, we'll offer you a second, third, and a fifth rounder for Adam Thielen, would you take that deal?
Well, yeah, I give up Adam Thielen, but I don't think anybody's going to do that.
Yeah, I'm not saying anyone would, but I think there's also, like I said, I brought teams that need receivers in the past. The 49ers are a team that will need wide receivers sooner rather than later because of all the injuries. There are teams out there that could go after a guy like Adam Thielen for the short term.
How many draft picks do the 49ers have to play with, though? Aren't they still, they gave up a lot in the last couple of years?
I thought it was the Rams. That given up a lot over the last couple of years, but maybe the 49ers as well.
Jimmy G, the Rams have. What about a team like the Rams?
Yeah, I don't know. You got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. I don't know if you had the picks there either. I think they've got 2 decent receivers.
You already got your one white wide receiver. I don't think you're allowed to have 2 anyway. Who's punching?
Yeah.
You can only put guys in the slot.
Hey, you know what San Francisco's missing? They're missing that white receiver, man. They could go out and get him. They could go out and get Adam Thielen.
Missing piece. Kansas City's missing one too.
Yeah, you never know. See, there's plenty of opportunities out there.
Yeah, hell, Cincinnati needs one because they don't use Alex Erickson. And if anybody wants Alex Erickson, they could probably have him for free. I'm not impressed.
No,
he's fair caught too many balls inside at the 10 and not let him go for me. I've seen him fair catch it at the 4 before. But it's in Cincinnati. Nobody's held accountable for anything they do, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. And we've talked about the coaching staff there before.
What do you think about Matt Ryan and Julio Jones? Julio Jones says he doesn't want to be traded. But if Matt Ryan was traded, I'm betting Julio Jones might want to be traded then. Is there any chance there? Because Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, if they went to – here's crazy. If they were to go to the Giants, the Giants would be the favorite to win that division. If they went to the Redskins, they'd be the favorite to win that division. If they went to the Eagles, well, the Eagles, they would still be favored to win that division. My point is, you'd make one trade in New York for those two guys, and you could probably score enough points to eke out those 7 wins to win the division.
Yeah, I've heard, like, Ian Rappaport has said he doesn't expect either of them to be moving. They're pretty locked down in Atlanta right now. But, if that deal, like you said, if that deal did happen, those are two of the guys I brought up in the previous weeks. But if these guys got moved, these are serious game changers here. We're talking about a quarterback win behind a good offensive line and a good offense can be a top 10 guy. And you're talking about a wide receiver who's arguably been the best receiver in football the past 5 to 6 years. So I think, it's not going to happen, but if someone came in knocking and said, we'll give you 2 first-round picks for Julio Jones, that'd be pretty hard to resist.
Well, yeah, I'd give him Julio Jones. he's not getting any younger, and that team's they need a lot. They've proven they can't win with just Matt Ryan and Julio Jones alone, or they wouldn't even be talked about being traded. A guy that stands out to me maybe in Atlanta is Alex Mack, because he's 34. He's still one of the best centers in football, I think. And there's not that many really good centers in football.
No, he's also, I believe, on an expiring contract, so he's getting up there, final year of his deal. If I was a team looking to go get him, I would honestly look around and say, why not go back to someplace he's familiar? Why not go back to someplace, I don't know, not Cleveland. Why not go to like a team like Seattle? Why not the Seahawks? The Seahawks had a good center in Max Unger a while ago. That was the last time they won a Super Bowl. They haven't had great offensive line since then. If you bring in Alex Mack, you're replacing Ethan Ponsic, who you had there. BJ Finney's also played a little bit of center for them this year. Alex Mack at Seattle makes a lot of sense to me.
Alex Mack, probably in over half the teams in the NFL, would make sense.
That's true. The offensive line play in the NFL has suffered a lot last couple of years.
He's a 34-year-old center. I'd love to see the Bengals trade for him. Give him John Ross.
And, you would need that. That would be the best offensive lineman you've had since Andrew Whitworth.
Yeah, give him Carlos Dunlap. And that's the thing. They didn't offer Whitworth what the Rams did, or they offered the same amount of money because they thought he was done because he was like 36 or 37. Alex Mack's 34 as a center is not necessarily real old. He could still have 3 or 4 years left in him. And if the Bengals were to build a team right with Joe Burrow, they're a playoff team in a year or two. But they won't.
No, they won't. But you could hypothetically have 2 good years with Alex Mack there and Joe Burrow, and you could have Mack be the centerpiece of your offensive line. That won't happen because you won't build properly, but you would have that opportunity.
Yeah, and the thing is this, I think if the Bengals ever win a Super Bowl, it'll be by mistake, and it'll just be once because Joe Burrow's that good.
You can win Super Bowls by mistake.
And this is the thing. It'll be like the year the Colts won the Super Bowl, where the Patriots were down, so they beat the Patriots, and then they get to the Super Bowl, and Rex Grossman and the Chicago Bears are facing them. Then you get to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I still don't know how that happened. The Bears' defense is pretty good. I think it was the year Devin Hester had all those kick returns. But
well, hell, if you remember, Tony Dungy, the Hall of Fame coach, was stupid enough to kick the ball off to him to start the game, which is the only reason that game was competitive the whole way, because the Bears went up 7-0 right away. And what happened in the NFC was, the NFC just wasn't very good that year. And the AFC wasn't very good that year. And see, you can make the same case when Peyton Manning won his second Super Bowl in Denver. Because in 2015, the best team in the NFL, I think, was the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm not just saying that as a joke this time, because that was a team that when Dalton got hurt, they were 10-2. They go to Denver with A.J. McCarron and lose to overtime because A.J. McCarron goes to throw the ball and drops it, and Denver recovers it and scores and wins the game. That Bengals team, I think, was the better team because when you looked at it, Denver's offense was terrible. Peyton Manning was horrible that year. Brock Osweiler won him half the games to get him to the playoffs even. So I think when you look at Peyton Manning, without the 2 down years from the Patriots, I think 2015 was the year where the Patriots' offensive line was really bad. And New England still went in, and they were a 2-point conversion away from going to overtime in that game.
Yeah, it was very close. And there have been years where the NFL's been down. I just don't think this is the year for that. I think this year –
I don't either. But I'm saying that's how the Bengals will eventually possibly win a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow.
Sometime in the next 20 years.
So good, and everybody else will just suck, and then they'll win. That's just my hope. I know it's probably not going to happen, Sam, but that's my hope.
I know you're realistic, Mike. I can appreciate that.
I am realistic. I'm not one of these stupid fans like you to think your team does no wrong.
I don't think I'm never saying we're perfect. We're definitely not that kind of team. We're definitely not perfect.
All right. And Bobby Sheridan gave us some crap on Twitter today saying that picking the game at like 44 points would be high scoring.
Yeah, I know. I saw it too. It's not for the NFL nowadays. The NFL nowadays is like 70 points. You can get 70-point games. You get 60-point games.
Bobby,
Those are high
Bobby
scoring.
lived in the 1950s where they played with leather helmets and the high-scoring game was 12-9. I'm teasing Bobby. Make sure you check out Bobby Sheridan too, because he's about the best picker of games there is out there. And Bobby, if you're listening, I don't know why you stopped sending me your picks during the Major League Baseball season. You obviously do not like me anymore. And it has probably cost me thousands of dollars because he stopped sending me the picks. But make sure you check out Bobby Sheridan on Twitter. I think it's at B Sheridan, but he's good at picking the games. And my point on the Bears-Rams tonight is I think it's a 24-20 game. And the reason I don't think it's high scoring is I believe probably out of those 44 points, probably 14 to 20 of them will be scored by defense.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm thinking the Bears are going to get a defensive touchdown here. They're going to get something defensively. Or they're at the very least going to set their offense up for an easy touchdown.
Let's face it, with the Rams' defensive line and Aaron Donald, I mean, Nick Foles may throw a pick six, fumble a ball, and it gets returned for a touchdown. So to me, 24-20, I think is from the defense actually being able to score points, or maybe not even a pick six, but maybe a fumble inside the 20. You get a short field, you score a couple times that way. Yeah. That's what I meant by that. But
yeah, once you got Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey on the one side, Khalil Mack and Kyle Fuller on the other, something's going to happen there. Something's going to give.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
Nope, I think we covered everything earlier today.
Make sure you follow Sam Teets at Sam Teets33. Make sure you follow me at Grilling Truth. Make sure you go and subscribe to our channel on Rockfin. It's $9.99 a month. You get exclusive content there, and you get all of our content there now since YouTube's assholes and demonetized us. And Bobby Sheridan stopped sending me his picks every day so I could make money that way. So right now, this show will be done from a box probably by next Monday, unless you want your balls to be happy and you go to Manscaped and use the promo code TGT20, which will get you 20% off your first order. And, I mean, 20% off to make your balls happy sounds like a pretty damn good deal to me, Sam. What do you think?
I think that was a great transition by you, Mike. I think it was masterfully done, and I agree. You should go use the promo code TGT20 at Manscaped.com.
Either, did you?
What was that?
You didn't see it coming either, did you?
No, I really did. That was a good one. That was a very smooth transition.
Yeah, I'm practicing because next week I'm going to be all in on making everybody that listens to us balls happy.
It's a great service you're doing, Mike.
You're doing it too, Sam.
I am too. I'm right here.
I can't do it alone. So if you want to make your balls happy, Manscaped TGT20. Sam's here to help if you have any questions about your balls and how to keep them happy with Manscaped. So you can just go to Twitter at SamTeats33 if you have any questions on happy balls. For now, we will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Are we going to talk quarterback rankings headed into week 8, Sam?
Yep, we'll have them ready for tomorrow.
I'm interested to see if you drop Russell Wilson after the 3 picks.
I haven't made a decision yet. I was thinking about it too, though. I'm thinking about it. I really am. But it'll be interesting to see how it works out.
All right. I'll be interested.
You won't like it either way.
I'll be ready to pounce. But
yeah, I know.
All right, guys. We're going to wrap it up. Make sure you check out our podcast form of the show on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, anywhere you find podcasts, you'll find The Grilling Truth. And we're here Monday through Friday live at 1 o'clock on YouTube Live, Twitch, Periscope. And then we will also have premium shows like this that you can find on Rockfin. But for now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening and watching to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.